Red alert. 10 phrases used by narcissists. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. It is the case that next to nobody identifies the narcissist first time of ensnarement. It just doesn't happen. But one of the things that you can do is to ensure that you don't get caught out again, and that you can educate others to keep an eye out for those narcissistic indicators so that they don't ever become ensnared, that you can pass on the benefit of your knowledge. There are some in the past who've asked me, HG, why would you allow people to find out the warning signs? Isn't that going to pose a problem for you in relation to ensnaring more victims? Simply no. First of all, there are billions of people on the planet. One will never fall short of victims. This information isn't going to percolate through to all of them. And of course, even when it does, the power of emotional thinking may well, in some, override it, with the resultant effect that they don't pay heed to it. And of course, I am the ultra. Thus, paying heed to these things will help them with the less evolved narcissist, but it isn't going to cause a problem with regard to my pursuit. The point is to provide information to people so that they don't get caught again and that they can educate others to know what to look out for. It's important to emphasize that just because somebody might use one of these phrases, that doesn't automatically mean that they are a narcissist. As I have made plain on a number of occasions, there are behaviors that can be engaged in by a narcissist, by a narcissistic person, by an empath and by a normal, but there are different drivers behind it. What you must look for is a number of indicators, and for those indicators to take place over a sustained period of time. But it does no harm for you, particularly in the reasonably immediate aftermath of ensnarement, to adopt a greater level of vigilance, to play safe, if you will, to ramp up your filter so that it's on a safe search at the highest level, so that if one of these phrases is uttered in your presence, that you think very carefully about whether you will continue to have an involvement with that individual, because of the risk of your emotional thinking still being elevated post-ensnarement, meaning that you're more susceptible to being caught again. This is why I regularly explain to people that I've helped in consultation that you need a 6-month period of total no contact. Some people it might be a little bit less because they ameliorate that emotional thinking faster, but in general terms, you need a 6-month period of total no contact to get that emotional thinking down, in effect to sober up, to get clean, so that then when you're engaging more with people, particularly in the romantic arena, you're going to be able to spot the narcissist far more readily. If you start dating shortly after you've been disengaged from by a narcissist, you're likely to walk straight into the arms of another one, and you won't pay attention to any of the potential red flags. Here, I'm going to demonstrate to you 10 phrases which could well be uttered by narcissists, and therefore, should you hear them, you then need to be vigilant, looking for other signs. It should put you on notice to be looking about and listening and observing what this narcissist or potential narcissist is doing. And then you are more likely, if those other indicators exist, to see them, and you'll protect yourself. Remember, if this is the only thing that is said by that person and you don't see any other narcissistic indicators, then there's no need to worry. But the whole point is to tell you about these phrases so that it causes you basically to prick your ears up and think, right, this might be a narcissist. I need to keep an eye out on other behaviors. I've received that first warning shot. Here come those phrases. Number 1, I will never hurt you. This is a warning sign because why on earth would anybody ever need to tell you that they're not going to hurt you? That should be implicit. This is where the narcissist is in effect over-egging the pudding, giving you the assurance, not because the narcissist is sat there thinking, I know I'm going to hurt you. No. Remember, most narcissists you will meet will be unaware, and therefore they are not thinking about hurting you during that seduction. What it is a misfire by the narcissism as it's attempting to assure you that there's nothing for you to worry about. And in the circumstances, by saying, I will never hurt you, you're getting a red flag. Number 2, I've never felt like this before. Again, this is the narcissism over-egging the pudding, flattering you unnecessarily to cause you to think that you're special. But if you view it, it's likely that the person that you're dealing with will have had previous relationships and may well have been in love before. Therefore, to suggest I've never felt like this before is rather unrealistic, and it's done again as part of that attempting to seduce, which could herald that you're talking to a narcissist. Number 3, my ex was, insert insult. The smearing of the ex is a particular red flag. There are, of course, individuals who were victims of narcissists and therefore their ex was indeed a major douche canoe. However, it's usually the case that the empath won't bang on about that. They'll be more likely to say, my ex, it was difficult and that's why it ended. Won't go into lots of detail smearing them, but a narcissist is likely to do so because they need to demonstrate to the prospective victim that the ex was the problem and they weren't. When that ex comes up on the radar, for instance, the new victim says, so what happened to your last relationship? That brings that immediate ex onto the radar, and the narcissism can't assert control over them directly because they're not there, and they're not going to be rung up by the narcissist when he or she is trying to seduce somebody else. So they then need to be able to assert control indirectly. And that results this strong reaction whereby they're insulted, that they are smeared, that they are called awful names, so that the reaction of the person who's now being seduced is to say, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you, which demonstrates they are coming under control and also affords the narcissist the subconscious sense of control over the aforementioned ex. This is one to particularly look out for. Number 4, I can't wait to marry you, live with you, have children with you. This, said early on whilst you're dating somebody, is another significant warning sign. You're getting to know one another. Marriage is a long way away. Ditto cohabiting, ditto having children. But the narcissist is in a rush to get you under control. The narcissist needs to get you under control and draw on your delicious fuel. And therefore, with this future faking, significant life events are referenced so that you are made to feel special, so that you think, goodness me, he wants to marry me. Blimey, she wants to have a child with me. It must be special. And thus, it's more likely to bring you under control because you think this person is really, really into you. Number 5, I love you and I always have done. Any early declaration of love is highly questionable. You may, of course, be the most fragrant and delightful person on the planet, whereby anybody would fall in love with you at the drop of a hat. But the fact is, you need to get to know somebody before you issue such a declaration, and having this said at an early stage is another significant red flag. Furthermore, making reference to having always loved you is nonsensical, particularly where you might not have known that person before, or that you vaguely knew one another, but how on earth could they be in love with you if they'd not really spoken to you, that they'd only seen you across an office floor, for instance? Simply doesn't add up, and is another significant red flag. Number 6, you're my soulmate. This is representative of the magical thinking of the narcissist, see for instance reference to twin flames, whereby talking about you in such terms, again at an early stage in the relationship, amounts to trying to make you feel special so that you become easier to control. Number 7, I don't get along with my family, followed by some kind of smear. It is the case that certain people may not get on with their family, and it's not that they're a narcissist. It may well be that some people don't see that much of their family. But it's not so much that, it's the early disclosure of this information and providing such detail to somebody that you barely know. It is a lack of boundary recognition, and it shows a lack of emotional empathy towards those that are being smeared. Accordingly, sharing such level of detail so early on is another red flag and is another phrase that should have you considering running away from this person. Number 8, Sorry, I was just thinking about our future. This occurs where you're talking and the narcissist doesn't appear to be listening to you. And then when you say something like, are you listening to me? Or give them a little nudge, they act as if they were in a trance. What's actually happening here is that the narcissist is showing at an early stage that it needs to be about them and not about you. They become bored with regard to what you're saying. But because you're being seduced, they're not actually going to try and bring attention back onto themselves by being clearly nasty to you. What they need to do is effectively issue a backhanded compliment, which is, oh, I was thinking about our future. In other words, you're so boring, but I'm going to tell you that my mind went elsewhere in order to flatter you. So you don't see that it's actually an insult, but this is a provocation that's designed to cause your attention to come back onto me, and done in a way that's supposedly to flatter you. Number 9. I don't know what it is, but I just seem to attract the wrong kind of people. This will be a pity play. And, again, whilst there are some people who are not narcissists that do repeatedly attract the wrong people, i.e. narcissists, they're not going to bemoan their status at an early stage in the interaction with another person romantically. The fact that somebody tells you this so soon and bemoans this is demonstrative of the fact that they're seeking to influence you by way of sympathy. Furthermore, it's also an indicator, of course, that they have haphazard relationships, which is one of the calling cards of the narcissist. Number 10. I just want to become part of you, stroke, merge into you, stroke, get inside of you. This is seen as being romantic and flattering, the desire to be so close to somebody that you want to merge with them. But in actual fact, it is some foreshadowing of a more sinister nature, because it is indicative of the way that the narcissist, or likely narcissist, is viewing you as an object that is there to be subsumed and assimilated by them. There you are. 10 phrases used by potential narcissists. Be aware of them. Make other people aware of them. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.